Bam! Welcome to the Real Talk Sports Show. I'm your host, Mr. Jonathan Simmons, and we're thankful to all those of you who decided to tune in to join us this evening. We are back after a long hiatus. I had an injury. I fell down and went boom. I was in the parking lot going to cover the Hawks game and tripped over a speed bump and bam! You can see my fingers still kind of crooked from that fall. But nevertheless, we are back here and special show tonight. We're going to talk about all the craziness that's been going on the NFL draft. And also, I guess I don't want to really call it a sad event, but we want to talk about a gentleman that was very impactful to our show, who is no longer with us, but we'll talk about that in just a few minutes. But before we do that, we're going to bring on a gentleman that is doing big things in the community. He is a friend of our show. We just call him Mr. Barry Brown. Is in the building. Mr. Barry Brown, welcome back, sir.
Thank you, sir. Thank you, sir. How you doing?
Hey, man, doing good. Like I said again, coming along here. We're about 2.5 months in after bam, the fall down. So we, you know, I tell you, but it could have been worse. I could have done the face plant. I could have hit, busted up the nose and
Absolutely.
all that kind of stuff. So I didn't do that. And wait a minute, zoom in on Mr. Barry Brown. See some different look. Mr. Brown is sporting the facial hair. Mr.
Yes,
Brown,
sir.
good,
Yes, sir.
Look good. Yeah, I can't do it like that. But you're looking good, sir. Very sharp. Very sharp. Yes, sir.
Thank you, sir. Thank you, sir. Thank you.
Yeah,
Yes,
I've tried to grow a beard on many occasions, and what it looks like is an accident. It's like grows a little bit here and then missing up here. So I just said, no, let me leave that alone. That's for a better man, Barry Brown. He's got it handled for sure, for sure, for sure.
it's a
Well,
skill.
it is good. Yeah,
Yeah.
it's no joke, man. You got to know what you're doing, and I like this. Well groomed,
Yes,
nice
sir.
and tight.
Yes, sir.
Yes, sir.
Yes, sir. I appreciate that,
Fine
sir.
job. Fine job. Well, Barry, listen, we got some interesting sports news that's going on. I call this was this the craziest NFL draft ever? The slider Shedeur and the Falcons being fined with some nonsense after the draft. So we're going to talk about that.
Yes.
Before we do, I want to do this. I want to give a brief shout out. We're going to maybe do some more next week. But I received some sad news yesterday. A young man who was a part of our show several years ago came on our station with WIGO and had told our program director he had an interest in doing sports talk radio. And so he signed on initially as one of our interns, but then later became a part of the show. Sadly and unfortunately, my good buddy, Mr. Miles Tyson, has went home to be with the Lord, left us
Yeah.
suddenly yesterday. Here's some photos. That's us there, group shot. You can see my hair was very black then. So, and there's Miles on the far, I guess for those of you watching, he'd be on let me see if I can point it out here. He's my fingers won't go right. He's the last guy there on the right-hand side wearing his black Tennessee jersey. And here's him during the pandemic going all Tennessee in his orange.
That's right.
And he is there again with his family. They're great young man, really, like I said, again, impacted our show quite a bit. And then later went on to do his own show with a couple other gentlemen, VJ, and I forget the other gentleman's name, and it was called In the Know. And so we're very grateful for them, Barry. But it must. You see it all the time because you give a lot back to the community. What does it mean for you when you see young people that you give to kind of sprout their wings and go off and do their own things?
Jonathan, it's nothing better than seeing a former intern, a former student, your own children, anybody that you've poured into. It's nothing like seeing them a month later, years later, and seeing them out somewhere in the store at a sporting event or an event or just in the neighborhood, and you run into them. And first of all, it's something that they're happy to see you. You know what I'm saying?
Right. That's it. Yeah, we're actually happy to see you. It's really right. Yep.
And then seeing them do well and getting, like you just showed Miles with his children, you getting a chance to meet their children and their spouse or their significant other or what have you. And man, I honestly don't believe it's anything better, Jonathan. As a former full-time educator, I still educate, but as a former full-time educator, that's one of the best things that ever happens when I run into a former student, and they're doing well, and y'all get to talk and catch up. And when they say something nice about you, or they say, "Man, I remember that time when you gave me those words of wisdom," or even if you got on to them, and they say, "Thank you for getting on to me and staying on me," and that's one of the greatest things that can happen to you in life, man. So definitely shout out to Miles Tyson and his family, man, and Miles, may you rest in peace, brother. It was great having a chance to know you and meet you, and he has something in common with my wife, because my wife is a University of Tennessee Law School grad. So she represents the volunteers as well. So him and my wife had something in common with that, and we used to talk about that all the time.
Did you mention the Volunteers?
Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
You mean the team that has probably one of the greatest fight songs in college football? That team?
Yes, sir. Hey, the stadium rocking, that checkerboard end zone. Hey, it's an amazing experience up there, man. I can tell you that, Jonathan.
I hope you guys can hear it just a little bit up. Rock Stop. Almost one of electric.
Yes, sir.
Fight song.
It is.
I first got a chance to hear Rocky Top in person. Vince, another good friend of the show, guy got me started on the show. Vince actually, we had tickets to the SEC, the 2008 SEC championship game, Tennessee against LSU. And it just was an electrifying moment. And that was in the old Georgia Dome, which at that time held about 69,000. But I'd never seen that. That was my first SEC game. And it got a little quiet. And all of a sudden, out of the tunnel, the guy runs out with the big Tennessee flag, the orange sweater and white pants. And next thing you know, they cranked up that band. And, buddy, the whole side of the stadium we were on was Rocky Top. 35,000 people singing Rocky Top at the top of their lungs. It was just the most electrifying moment I've ever been a part of. And Miles, and I would always talk about the volunteers. And it really is good that at least before he passed, he was able to see his volunteers actually get the college football playoff this year. So so happy that he was able to see his boys get back to prominence. But Miles Tyson, a great friend of our show, gone too soon. I think he was 44 years old. Left off, as you see, a lovely family there. That's a picture from maybe about 7 or 8 years ago. So his daughter, the funny thing is you mentioned about things going full circle. His daughter was a basketball player at Forest Park. Fast forward 2 years ago, I go into a client that would bought a few vehicles from us, a roofing company here in Forest Park, and I hear this voice in the background, Mr. Simmons, Mr. Simmons. I'm like, And it was his daughter who had already graduated, working for the company. And then fast forward to last year, I guess it was, Miles called me, said, "Hey, man, my daughter needs a car." And she actually came and bought a car from me. So everything kind of went full circle. This little girl I saw, at age 13, 14, actually came on the show. I'm going to try to find that tape for next week. Came on the show, very shy in high school. And then later on, about 8 or 9 years later, came in and bought herself for her first, I guess the first new car. I guess it was new to her, slightly used car. Right. So again, big shout out to Miles, all he's done. And certainly my condolences to his lovely wife and his children and the rest of his family. Miles Tyson, a good friend of our show, former co-host, gone too soon, I believe, again, at the age of 44. Yes, sir. Let's go here and take a look on social media. We have some comments here. Yep. And then this is Miles' wife actually is commenting right there. And she says, "Thank you so much," from his family. And again, we just, like I said, I'm going to give you, I'm going to laugh here because he had a nickname on the show. We used to call him the Devious Deacon because Miles was a deacon at his church. And and this topic we're about to get into would be right up his alley, the controversy of what happened to Shedeur Sanders during the NFL draft. He'd be all over his minister. It's not right. Because he has aspired to be the next Stephen A. Smith. So, this would be right up his alley again. Greetings and salutations to them. And oh, look who's back in the building. Oh man, Sully. He said, "Oh shucky ducky, time for the one and only old man Sully." Sully, hey man, listen. I know that you normally like to interact with Tree. She's not on tonight. We like I said again, we just was doing a pop up show. I want to give some kudos and respect to the passing of a guy that used to be on our show, Miles Tyson. So that's why we did this special talk tonight, and also talk to Barry about his sensibilities about what could have been the craziest draft ever. I mean, I've never in my life would have expected to see what I saw. I felt like Vince Scully when he announced the great home run in the World Series. He said, "I can't believe what I just saw," and that's kind of how I felt. You know,
Yeah.
A guy Barry that was ranked. Many people think he might have been the first or second overall pick to slide not to the second, not to the third, not to the fourth, but to the fifth round.
Yes.
Your thoughts, Barry, as you saw this unfold over literally 3 days of draft action.
Yes, sir. Well, let me say this, Jonathan. I've never seen anything like it. When you start talking about a young man from Jackson State, his freshman year, he threw for 3,200 yards. His sophomore year at Jackson State, he threw for 3,700 yards. His first year at Colorado, which was his junior season, he threw for another 3,200 yards. And then his senior season, he exploded for 4,100 yards and 37 touchdowns. So you're talking about a man that put up numbers that are better than a lot of quarterbacks that have been drafted in the first round with questionable backgrounds. So I've never seen this before. And I did a video about it. So you can check that out on YouTube. You go to the Student Athlete Playbook channel, and you can check out my video I did on it. But Shedeur Sanders, by far, Jonathan, was more than qualified, had all the stats to be drafted in the first round. So recently, I watched the 30 for 30 Elway to Marino, the awesome class of 1983. Where you're talking about Elway, Jim Kelly, Eason. Oh man, I want to say was Blackledge in that class. I'm not sure about that, but I think Blackledge was in that class too. But that class of 1983 goes down as one of the greatest QB classes of all time. And you had John Elway, who he and his dad literally said they were not going to play for the Baltimore Colts. But they chose, the Baltimore Colts chose him anyway, and he forced their hand by playing baseball. Now, if you go look at that, and that was George Steinbrenner. George Steinbrenner actually signed John Elway, gave him $150,000, and he came and played baseball that summer leading up to the NFL season. He played with the Yankees that summer in the minor leagues. So imagine this, Jonathan. You're talking about back in 1983, John Elway told them he was not going to play for them. Talked about it. It's recorded. You can watch the 30 for 30. And he still was drafted number 1 overall. And then, of course, he went and played with the Denver Broncos. So when people start talking about Sanders and his swag, Sanders and his preparation for the draft, that's the only thing I would say that they probably did wrong. His dad, the great primetime, and this is documented. I've said this on plenty of shows, and I've said this on my channel. I patterned my game after Deion Sanders. I love Deion Sanders. In high school and in college, I attempted to play like him. Now, I wasn't as fast as him. I wasn't as big as him. But I patterned my game after him, and it worked out for me. It worked. Now, his dad made the same kind of comments that John Elway's dad made. And so my question to the world, and a lot of people have a lot of things to say about this, is how did this young man fall to the 5th round when all he did was the same thing. Now, if he wasn't prepared for those meetings, now that's something totally different in my opinion. If he did not prepare and they gave him an installation package and he wasn't ready, well, I'm telling all student athletes and all parents that are watching me right now, hey, you have to prepare to do your job. That's an interview. And you have to go in there and be ready. But other than that, you talking about his swag and him and all the jewelry, I'm not concerned about that because people with worse things off the field have been drafted in the first round. So the only thing I will point to, Jonathan, is him not doing that installation package and not being prepared for that. If that's the truth, we don't even know if that's the truth, but they say that's what happened. And then all of a sudden, he's being taken off of draft boards across the NFL. So some people talk about, racism. Is that a part of it? Some people talk about other things. But my opinion, this is only my opinion, is, hey, man, the young man is a first round grade. He should have been taken in the first round, period. And the quarterback that were taken in front of him were not better than him. Only person that was probably better than him for real, in my opinion, was Cam Ward. And that's it. And I said that myself. Cam Ward would have been my first pick too. So he was definitely the second pick, and he was more than worth a first round draft choice. So that's my opinion.
Really the big question. What was the real reason that Mr. Shedeur Sanders fell in the draft? So, okay, so let's kind of unpack this a little bit. Matter of fact, let's do this. We're going to we're already running over time. We're going to take a little quick break, and we'll be back with more. There's the question, ladies and gentlemen. What was the real reason that you think that Mr. Shedeur Sanders plummeted in the draft? We'll be back with more of the Real Talk Sports Show special edition in just a momento. I mean, really just a moment because I got a short break here. Hang on, guys. Hang on. Don't go.
Hey, sports fans, tune in for live high school football Friday, 7:30 p.m. on RealTalkSports.net. Check out your favorite Metro Atlanta team.
The day has arrived. It's time to let more people know about your business. You have the right marketing plan and the messaging in place. But do you have the right messenger? Good advertising and promotions need a professional sound so the message can be clearly understood. Don't leave your brand image to chance. Let our team of voiceover experts at CME lend you a hand. Give us a call at 678-304-8121 to find out how we can partner with you to give your business its voice.
Coming up next, it's the Real Talk Sports Show, bringing you great sports talk with perspective. Now, here's our host, Jonathan Simmons.
We're back, guys. I'm here with Mr. Barry Brown, a legendary man in his own right.
Hey, be careful about that legendary. Hey, he got in trouble about that with his that's his new clothing brand, his merchandise brand. People would talk about, oh, he's not legendary. Hey, let's be careful about that legendary.
We won't get you in any trouble. Let's look at a couple items. Okay, here's the thing that for me, when I look at the whole situation with Shedeur and all the things that went on. So first of all, I take the same posture to some degree as I did when the Michael Vick situation came about. Now, although they're vastly different issues, to me, the mindset and the sensibilities are the same. And you say, what do I mean by that? Okay, this is not necessarily a racial thing. For all those people jumping out saying that they think it's a racial thing, me personally, it's bigger than that. Mm-hmm. What people have to understand is the NFL is one of the most powerful sports entities in the world. Okay. Their owners and those teams, those 32 teams collectively are worth more money than any other sports conglomerate or league in the world.
Correct.
And that's even more than the Premier League. The 32 NFL teams, I think the low marker point is about $1 billion.
Right.
Net worth of the team. And the top end, I think the Cowboys now are valued right around $7.5 or $8 billion for a single team.
Correct.
The NFL has long held a posture that no one, and I mean no one, is bigger than the game.
Correct.
And so we're going to do a little history lesson. When this first came out, I told people We're going to turn back the clock to 1965. The Green Bay Packers were just coming off of a NFL championship, defeating the Cleveland Browns, and it was the last game that the legendary Jim Brown played in. Packers knocked off Cleveland, I think it was 23-12 in that 1965 championship game. And the Packers were getting ready to play in the first season that would end in a Super Bowl.
Okay.
The 1965 MVP, or he might have been either 65 or 64 MVP, was a player on the Packers by the name of Paul Hornung. He was referred to as the Golden Boy. And I want to get this information straight here, so I'm going to pop this up here and see if I can get this here. Some people don't think I'm talking sideways here. But anyway, Paul Hornung was the guy that is the only guy to ever win the Heisman Trophy on a team with a losing record. That was back in 1958, I believe. He beat out a gentleman from Syracuse by the name of Jim Brown, who probably should have won it, but we won't get into that today.
Right.
Paul Hornung, in the year that he won the MVP, he did something that will probably never be duplicated. I'm sure it might be 1964 because apparently Jim Brown was the MVP in 65 when they played the Packers. Let me just go back here and see if I can get this here, and let's get it here. No. Anyway, Paul Hornung scored over 100 points, and he did that throwing touchdown passes, rushing, receiving, and kicking field goals. So nobody's going to ever do that again. This guy was a legendary player. He, along with Frank Gifford, was one of the early players to get what would be endorsements. He was everywhere.
Right.
But
right.
He had some habits. He fit in the NFL very well today. He liked two things. He liked gambling, and he liked the ladies. Okay.
Yes,
and back then, those types of things were not well thought of by the NFL. And Mr. Hornung was told that he was involved with quote unquote savory characters with underworld connections.
Absolutely.
And that he frequented Las Vegas and several establishments that were owned by various individuals. And the NFL told him to cease and desist. Mr. Hornung, in his brash and arrogant way, basically told them, pound sand. Well, the NFL said, good news. You are now officially suspended for 1 year. So after he's coming off this legendary season, just like I said, a couple of years before, he was MVP, scored over 160 points. The guy found himself not playing in the league. And then when he came back, he was able to come back for the Super Bowl. And even though the Packers won 35-10, Vince Lombardi would not let him play a single minute. And there's a legendary photo of him with the big hoodies that they wore back then, standing on the sidelines with the confetti, and the team had already run into the locker room. We didn't play it down. Then the Packers ended up trading him to the then new New Orleans Saints, and he kind of faded into obscurity. And ironically, the guy that was suspended along with him was a gentleman that popped up later on TV as Webster's dad, Alex Karras, who was a great defensive tackle for the Detroit Lions.
Yep.
Let's fast forward again to 1970. A guy who had taken the NFL by storm. He had just knocked off the highly favored Baltimore Colts. The women were singing a song about him called Broadway Joe.
Broadway Joe.
Fu Manchu, full-length fur coat, and him and Walter Clyde Frazier were ruling New York.
That's right.
Well, the NFL once again said, hey, Joe, it does appear that an establishment that you own, the Bachelor's 3, is frequented by various underworld and unsavory characters. And we're going to have to ask you to divest yourself of your investment. Joe, same posture, pound sand. NFL said, good news. If you don't divest, you'll be at rest because you'll be suspended indefinitely. And Joe Namath tearfully came out and apologized and divested himself of his holdings. He said, brother, what does that have to do with that? Well, both of those men were white.
Yeah.
And both of these guys were the darlings of media, the darlings of the entertainment world, but the NFL basically was letting them know, hey, you are not bigger than the game. And the Michael Vick thing came down to the same thing. And so this was not really a racial thing. This was an economic and, more importantly, a power thing.
Correct. Yes.
I sent a message that, hey, this is not college. You're not running an NIL game on us. You will sit down and not be playing it down. So that's my take on it. I don't know what your thoughts were, but that's my take on what I think really happened.
That's great.
Last but not least, they did not want the Deion show around their facility.
That's awesome. John, hey, my brother, I have not heard that theory yet. And so I like that. Definitely as a different perspective on what happened, because well, I think universally you're absolutely correct. It was to humble him, and I've actually seen that where somebody has come out and said, yes, this was all about humbling him and making sure he understood where he was supposed to be and how he's supposed to conduct himself. So, hey, that's a great perspective, Jonathan. I think that needs to go out there more, what you just broke down. And hey, thank you, brother. You just taught me something tremendously right there, because I agree with you 100%. I'm gonna rock with your perspective, because I think that's a good one. Mm-hmm. And and let me say this, Jonathan. Let me say it before you go.
Sure.
Him making the decision not to have an agent was critical too. Because see, I did not know that he did not have an agent. I did not know that, because one of my good friends explained to me that, hey, if he had an agent prior to him going to New York for that visit, the agent's job is to make sure you are prepared for these visits. Since he had no one in position to do that, he went into that meeting unprepared. And when you go into an interview unprepared, we all know what can happen. Exactly. And as you say, I like the way you say it, the NFL is awesome at giving you the good news.
Yeah, because they're not right. They're not playing with you, bro. I mean, just like when these things come up where players get involved in scandals, and it's like people think the league doesn't know. Let me tell you something, okay? I've covered Super Bowls, and to me, that was like being in the belly of the beast. What you realize is the NFL, I'm serious, man, because the security protocols are at another level. And if you really talk to people inside of security and law enforcement, they will tell you that the NFL investigative procedure ranks up there with FBI and other people, because they use a lot of former FBI guys and law enforcement people.
Absolutely. That's who they hire. They hire current and former FBI agents that work for them, period. Hey, Jonathan, like you said, brother, we've been around professional athletes. We have professional athletes that are our friends and family members. And another word we haven't used tonight, but I've used it in the past talking about this situation. Another thing is to pull off anything like this as a coach, as a student athlete, as a potential draft candidate, you have to have some kind of leverage.
Right.
And that's what John Elway used in 1983. He had leverage. Nobody's talking about this, but let me mention Bo Jackson. Bo Jackson did the same thing. He said, I'm not playing for the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. And he didn't. Right. But he had leverage because he could go play baseball. And he did. So if you don't have leverage, then you have nothing. And then let me bring up the other thing that they brought it up. But let me bring it up right here. The last people to do it was Peyton Manning, not Peyton Manning, Archie Manning, the Manning family with Eli Manning. When they said, no, he's not playing for the San Diego Chargers, and he didn't. They pulled their leverage card. But see, here's the interesting thing about that, Jonathan. Eli didn't play baseball. Eli didn't play soccer. He didn't play another sport. He played football only. So what leverage did they use for San Diego not to draft him and for him to end up on the Giants? So that's another perspective that's very interesting. But I'm going to leave it with this. from what has just happened with Shedeur, it looked like since the Mannings pulled that off, it was almost like the NFL has been waiting for the next person to try that move, and they were ready for it this time.
Yes, sir. Yes,
Leave
sir.
it right.
It was like fool me once, but you won't fool me twice. Yeah. The NFL, I mean, basically, I tell people the NFL they are about, think about this. They actually have people that have come out and said we have to protect the shield. That's an NFL term. They're talking about the logo, protecting the shield, the integrity of the shield. And so there's a certain amount of planning. There's a certain amount of direction that goes behind it. And I'll tell you another thing. I think that the NFL poked Cleveland in the eye because I think that Cleveland's management was told, hey, now you can draft him. I think they wanted to draft him earlier, but they were led to believe that was a bad idea. Then the NFL called him and said, hey, you can draft him. Now, after they'd already drafted Dylan Gabriel, that's why if you look at them, I tell people all the time, I don't care what you say to me. I don't care what you say, but your body is going to give you up. And body language tells the whole story more than 1,000, a picture with 1,000 words. I didn't see no happy faces when the Browns announced in the 5th round, Cleveland will select Shedeur Sanders. And when they were called on it, they still didn't look happy when they were trying to explain, well, we were tired. Well, you still tired now, bro? Because you still look like you're unhappy. Right. And I think the unhappiness was the fact that they knew, hey, we could have drafted him earlier or even with a Dylan Gabriel pick and then added some other guys that we need desperately here. And now the Cleveland Browns know that once again, they're going to be the quasi-laughing stock of the NFL because they have not one, not two, but they have 5 quarterbacks in the room, if I got the count right. They got they're bringing back Joe Flacco. They got Dylan Gabriel. They have Shedeur Sanders, and they have another guy in their room as well. So you got, 4 quarterbacks in the room. And you have 2 guys. Think about this. You have 2 guys you just drafted that have a knockdown, drag-out battle for the number 3 spot.
Well, it's going to be the number 2. They're going to get rid of, Deshaun Watson is not going to play for them anymore.
Deshaun Watson, right? He can't play. Yeah. But you have all these guys.
Right. Yeah. Deshaun is not going to play, so you can take him out. So you're down to 4. The young man that was from Pittsburgh.
Kenny Pickett. There's number 5. Lord have mercy.
Yeah. So he's not going. They're going to beat him. Dylan and Shedeur are going to beat him out. So it's Flacco. In my mind, I have Flacco number 1. He'll most likely start the season, and then Shedeur and Dylan will battle for the number 2 spot. I believe Shedeur should win that battle if he comes in with his spirit and mind ready. And he should win that battle. And then boom, by the 8th game of the season, Shedeur be the starting quarterback for the Cleveland Browns. That's how I project things working out for the Cleveland Browns. And hey, and I think this may be the best thing. Ironically, this may be the best thing that ever happened to Shedeur Sanders in his life, where he was humbled, and now he literally had to come and work to make the team as a 5th round draft pick and earn playing time, which he probably hasn't had to do ever in his life. So here's a great chance for that opportunity for him. And that's what I want the young people and the parents to understand. Hey, work ethic is the key to this whole situation. And so now Shedeur has a chance to do that. And I do believe he will.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and at the end of the day, we don't want to certainly make it seem like Shedeur is not a guy that works. I know you're trying to spin that when they're cutting, editing these tapes with him, asking for water at the workout with Cam and him looking, hey man, we don't need no water. That's how we do it here. I mean, at the end of the day, we know that this young man is not just talent, because the running offense, especially an offense like Colorado, where you're not just running around. Okay, right. I know you can say, well, man, he had guys like Jimmy Horn. He had, of course, the greatest player in this year's draft. That's not the point. The point is,
Travis Hunter. Mm-hmm.
Right. Oftentimes, he put the ball right where it needed to be. Oftentimes, he was under duress. He's the most sacked quarterback in D1 college football, and still was able to put the kind of numbers up that you mentioned earlier in the This idea that somehow he may be incompetent or haven't worked, I don't think so. Will he have to
No.
work harder than he's ever worked before? Absolutely.
Absolutely. Right.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
No doubt about that. But like I said, again, going back to it, I think that the reason that Mr. Shedeur Sanders fell is much more complex than just racism. Is far
Absolutely.
beyond that. This has to
that
do
was
with
a smaller,
money and power.
Yeah, that was a smaller. The racism part of it was much smaller than anything. Because here's the argument. Here's the argument, Jonathan. I'm just going to be real here for a second, because you saw it all over social media, and there is some merit. It is some validity to it. But I go with your perspective overall. The racism part is this: the African American male, African American female has been beat down in this country so much that every time something like this happens in our society, it feels like racism because we've endured it so much. So that's where it rings a bell, Mr. Simmons, because every time we think we're about to make a step somewhere, and you have this confident young black male, African American male, get knocked down and restrained and constricted, it just feels like what we've endured in this country for so long. And that's why you see the bell ringing about racism, because we've endured it so long. And then people have the audacity to turn around and talk about reverse discrimination. And it's the most sickening thing in the world, because you have to be in a power position to be a racist. You have to be in control of a situation to be the racist person. So when people say, oh, everything should be merit-based now, well, yeah, that would be cool if it was an even playing field. But as most things in this country, there is not a level playing field. And so that's why these things were put in place, to try to even the playing field, because of what has happened to the African-American male and the African-American female in this country. And it's embedded. So it's not going anywhere, because the same people that are ancestors to the current living people pass those things down, just like anything else is passed down. So why would we sit here and act like racism doesn't exist? Why would we sit here and act like these things, discrimination doesn't exist, when I still get on the elevator today and people from another race clutch their purses? It happens right now. So I'm not going to sit here and say that it doesn't exist, because it does. Now, it plays a very small part in this situation. I agree with you, but we cannot say it doesn't exist at all. I can't buy that. So I'm going to leave it right there.
Let me say this when I go to a break, and this is probably better for a political show, but this is what I would say about the whole idea about having a meritocracy. We've never had that, because in essence, I just heard someone say the other day about the NFL, it was one of the biggest operations of nepotism in all of business. Because think about this, if you really look at it, I'm sure that these various gentlemen I'm going to mention have been around the game, but really, what skill sets put him over and above the top to be the general manager of the Dallas Cowboys, except his last name is Jones? Okay.
Correct. That's
what merit does the coach in waiting at the University of North Carolina have outside the fact that his dad is named Bill Belichick? I can go on and on and on. Even if you look at the current, you can look at the staff of almost any professional football team, and most of those guys, just are they qualified? They are, but most of the time they got the job because the new head coach says, I know this guy, I worked with him before, therefore I'm going to bring him in because he's my guy.
Correct.
Well, what does that have to do with meritocracy? You said, I'm bringing my guy. You didn't say, hey, he's the most qualified guy. You didn't say you put him through like a 10-page test. You just say, hey, this is my guy. And so this is what happens throughout American business, and even in our churches. I mean, you know, our churches are rampant with this. You have many people where literally pastorships are being passed down. I won't call out a particular place where this has happened recently,
Right,
but
right.
this is what we see. I'm thinking to myself, what qualifications do you have outside of the fact that you're the offspring of the current pastor?
Happens every day, Jonathan. You're absolutely correct.
So there is no meritocracy in the United States. This idea you want to make America great, then tell your children to sit down. And I'll leave it at that. All right, folks, we're going to take a break and we're going to come back and talk about the other thing that was crazy. Well, first, we'll talk about the good part and then the crazy part. You're saying, well, Minister, what you talking about? Well, you got to keep it locked right here. For more of the Real Talk Sports Show, we'll be back in just a moment. Don't you go anywhere. Thank you, and thank you.
The day has arrived. It's time to let more people know about your business. You have the right marketing plan and the messaging in place. But do you have the right messenger? Good advertising and promotions need a professional sound so the message can be clearly understood. Don't leave your brand image to chance. Let our team of voiceover experts at CME lend you a hand. Give us a call at 678-304-8121 to find out how we can partner with you to give your business its voice.
This is your time to get what you want. Go work that thing with Work That Thing supplements.
Shout out to another friend of the program, Mr. Tyrone Poole. Not one, but two-time Super Bowl champion, and doing his own thing now with Work That Thing products. So if you're trying to get in shape, all you have to do is go take a look at that, workthatthing.com. Tyrone Poole, in his age 50, man, the guy looks like he go out there and play right now, Barry. I mean, he's ripped, got a six-pack. Man. You know, he's just –
hey, man.
But you got to work that thing to look like that. It's not for amateurs.
Hey, we talked about work ethic. Hey, that video, that was impressive. Hey, shout out to Ty. Hey, Ty, Coach Poole. Hey, man, beautiful. I love it, man. Congratulations on the supplements. And, yeah, you are inspiration, man. But, again, when we start talking about being prepared, when we start talking about putting yourself in position to have success at the next level, here we go. Coach Tyrone Poole is a great example of a HBCU Division II. Shout out to Fort Valley State University, being the number 16 pick. I think that was in the 1994 draft. Listen,
sure.
That gentleman right there is an inspiration for all of us. And shout out to Coach Tyrone Poole for what he did back when he was playing, coming out of LaGrange, Georgia. Shout out to them Grangers, Fort Valley State University, and then, of course, on to the NFL. Hey, shout out to Coach Tyrone Poole.
Speaking of NFL, a lot of excitement here in Atlanta initially over the draft as the Falcons once again were the talk of the NFL, this time, at least for the first couple of days, in a good way. Let's take a look at the Falcons draft pick. We're going to run them down here. In the first round, the Falcons did the unthinkable. They finally drafted a Georgia Bulldog. At number 15, Jalen Walker, probably one of the best linebackers in the draft, mysteriously fell to the Falcons. The Falcons gobbled him up at 15. And then the Falcons doubled down. All of us crying for edge rusher, a guy who is a little edgy himself, but definitely was one of the dominant pass rushers in Division I and in the SEC, James Pierce. So the Falcons apparently grabbed bookends in their first two picks. But wait, there's more. Round 3, they pick up a safety, one of the best safeties in Division I football, two-time All-American Xavier Watts. But wait, there's more. The Falcons continue to go for defense, pick up another highly rated safety, Billy Bowman Jr. out of Oklahoma. And last but not least, at least guys they picked, in round number 7, the Falcons spruce up their offensive line adding Jack Nelson, the big offensive tackle from Wisconsin. Now, you hear all that. You're thinking, man, the Falcons, it's off the chain. What do you think, first of all, about those picks, Mr. Barry Brown?
Well, I'm a Georgia Tech fan. However, I was very excited about picking up Walker from those mighty, mighty Bulldogs from up there in Athens. Go Dogs. Sick 'em. So, Georgia Bulldogs, great pick in Walker. No, hands down. That was awesome that he fell to us. And then Pierce, again, questionable character, questionable work ethic, but he still went in the first round, Jonathan. Again, he's still winning the first round. So I'm happy about that pick. I hope that young man comes together with his spirit and mind ready to make an impact in the NFL, which I believe he will. And then Watts, very excited about that pick from Notre Dame. Man, definitely saw him play in the college football playoffs, and the man makes plays every which kind of way in the running game, in the passing game. So I think he's going to make an impact at the next level. And I'm going to skip over Bowman. However, I'm going to go straight to Nelson. You never can go wrong, in my opinion, when you get those big dogs from Wisconsin. Those guys know how to block, specifically run block. And I'm excited to see what Nelson is going to do at the next level. And I saw Bowman play. I mean, I believe he's good enough to be in the NFL, but we'll see how he works out. I'm not going to say anything about him because I don't have any. My mama taught me one thing, Jonathan, in all seriousness, and I know we've talked about a lot of serious stuff today, but she said when you don't have anything good to say, don't say nothing.
Say nothing at all. Yes, sir.
So I'm gonna leave it right there.
Well, the tape on Bowman looks very impressive. It looks like he is a very scrappy young man, a little undersized at 5'9", but we had a guy here of over a decade ago that's very undersized, and he seemed to do quite well because of his amazing hops. We've seen this before, and we'll see what happens. But you mentioned the gentleman from Wisconsin. He is a mountain of a man, 6'7". Big wingspan, 318 pounds, but that's probably, I'm sure they're going to bulk him up to around 330. So he's going to be a big load. Again, his specialty is run blocking, but the bottom line is like this. You got Jake Matthews, who's entering, I believe, season number 13. At some point, you have to have a reasonable expectation to replace him. Hopefully, Jake can groom this young man along and make it work. So I'm not too worried about that. But like you said, again, always good to give offensive tackle help. And certainly Jalen Walker is a guy that both him and Pierce are the type of guys traditionally Falcons don't draft.
Correct.
Guys who have played at the highest level of college football, and for lack of a better term, I know you're a Georgia Tech man, but they got that dog in them.
They got that dog in them, baby. All day and every day. Yes, sir.
Pierce has the disposition, at least in interviews, that you want to see from the edge rusher. He didn't want to talk too much. And he just said, I'm not coming here to do anything but to rush the passer. That's basically what he said. He said, I don't know about the other things they're trying to maybe do. He said, I think they basically picked me to get the guy on the ground. That's what I'm talking about. So I'm not interested in dropping back into coverage. I don't care if they're thinking they might want to do that with me because I ain't here for that. Basically what he said, you're up between the lines. He was like, well, I don't know anything about that.
Right.
Jalen Walker, a different story. I think he's a guy that you're going to see him moved all over the field. And I think the thing that's very strategic about this, Barry, is the fact that they have another former Bulldog, a veteran guy that's going to be there to help school them, a guy who I think they should have got a long time ago. I'm talking about, you want to mention the young man's name out of Georgia that they brought in as well. So.
Leonard Floyd. So when you start talking about a winning tradition, when you start talking about preparing guys for the NFL, well, all you got to do is look at UJ North up there in Philadelphia. That's all you have to do. And listening to Walker before the draft, or it might have been even draft day, when they were talking to him, he was talking about how they practice at Georgia. So shout out to Kirby Smart preparing these guys for the NFL, because he did not know anything. The Georgia Bulldogs players, definitely the current batch that are out there right now, they don't know anything about going half speed and what you call it, breaking down and
load
going
management,
slow.
none of that.
Yeah, they don't understand any of that. They know wide open, get to the ball, crush the person with the ball. That's what they know. And so they were teasing them saying, hey, Walker, when you get to the NFL, we don't practice like that. We don't practice like that.
And that's why we see so many bad games and so many injuries early in the season, because they don't practice like that. But that's a whole nother story.
But that's another story. Yeah. So he said he's going to have to adjust to that because he's so used to going wide open at practice all the time. And so, yeah, that'll be an adjustment for him. But I think we got a winner. And once he gets used to the NFL system and the practice schedule and how they practice, then I believe on game day, we might really end up seeing something special, man. And we need that.
No doubt. And certainly James Pierce being part of this suddenly stacked room of Falcon edge rushers. Because remember now, Braylon Trice will be coming back from injury. We'll expect him to kind of do his thing. We believe that that we still have AK-47 on Lake Batavia, who led them in sacks last year, 6.5 sacks. So they're going to have the ability to do something they haven't been able to do in the past, which is rotate fresh edge rushers.
Yes.
And so the Falcons, you may not see any one of those guys get 10, but you might see, and you hope to see, maybe 4 of them have 7 or more.
Correct. Yeah. 8 is that. I think 7, 8 is that magic number. If we can get one of them guys to 10, that'll be beautiful. But I like that, Jonathan. If we get 4 of them with 7 or more, woo! Oh man, we looking nice. And then if that linebacker situation with Walker infused in there, rotating with that linebacker crew from a rush in situation to a that outside linebacker type position, hey man, we may have a defense that can finally close a game when we have a lead at the end. Because that's if you look back at this last season, pretty much the last 4 seasons, we lost a lot of games in that fourth quarter simply because we couldn't close it out on defense. So if we can get some sack guys in there who can make some big sacks in the fourth quarter, I think we're looking pretty, man. I'm excited about this season because, like you said, for the first time in a very long time, we've drafted exactly what we needed and got some real players who can actually do what we need done. And I'm excited, man. I'm excited.
No doubt about it. And like you said, you got a situation, we now have depth. You got guys like Zach Harrison, they're still around. This team really can keep the defense fresh and avoid the fiasco that I saw. I happened to watch a replay of the Redskin game. I said, man, this is a joke. The Redskins held the ball for, I think, 11 and a half minutes of the third quarter.
Yeah.
And the reason why they couldn't come off the field, they couldn't tackle. They were doing a lot of shoulder tackling. I don't know what would happen. And of course, for me, the bigger question is going to be, can the Falcons find a way to coach the players so that they will be able to be used
say coach?
Coach them, yeah. I don't want a situation where you got guys like we saw with Matthew Judon. I know some of this was to protect Judon because of the fact he was injured, but you got a guy that you inked up, a guy that had over 30 sacks in 2 of his last 4 years. I think he had 14 in 1 year, 16 another year. And I saw him dropping back into coverage.
Well, we did that with Vic Beasley, man. I don't know how you go from leading the league in sacks to now they want you dropping back in coverage. But hey, listen, Pierce is right. Pierce Jr. is correct. Hey, they drafted me to go get the ball. The man behind this line of scrimmage on the other side, that's what they brought me in here to do. Let him go do that. I'm with him on that one. And I do not want to see the only person that can drop into coverage, in my opinion. Yeah, Walker can do it, but Pierce needs to go after the quarterback. Point blank.
Exactly.
That's what I want to see, Coach. And I hope the Trice young man, our pick from last year, I hope he's rested up. The young man from Washington, University of Washington, I hope he's rested up and he's ready to go. And if that's the case, hey man, we're gonna be fine. We're gonna be fine, Jonathan. We just got to go out there and do it, and that's the key. And when I said when you talking about coaching, because listen, brother, that Washington game, that was the clock management game for the Falcons. That was a disaster. And so if we can get the coach, like the coaches have to practice too. They have to practice and get ready too. So this is a coaching situation just as much as is a player situation, because there were several games we lost purely on coaching last year. And if we can get that back right, get these players, and it looks like we got some great players on this roster right now. If we can pull it all together, we could be looking at a special season, man. And if that's the case, you know how Mercedes-Benz gets when we have a good football team, brother. Hey, that's one of the best atmospheres in the NFL when we have a good team in that building, man. The excitement, the entertainment, all mixed together. Hey, man, it's nothing like the city of Atlanta, Georgia, when the Atlanta Falcons are doing their thing. That's point blank, period. I put that on everybody. That's from the ATL. Matter of fact, I'm going to give them an ATL, yeah, shawty, right there just for the Falcons.
Well, speaking of ATL and coaching, I hate to end on a kind of sour note, but leave it to the Falcons to find a way to ruin a fine day at the office. Shockingly, the Falcons' new defensive coordinator decided to leave his iPad unlocked in his home. Now, a lot of people say, well, why wouldn't he do that? He's at home. Well, I guess he didn't know that he had a wayward child. I shouldn't say a child, because 21 years old, you're a grown man.
Absolutely.
Okay, absolutely. Really, you're 21 years old because you have people going to war. Matter of fact, several players on the team he's coaching are that same age.
Mm-hmm.
And he thought it was a good idea, his son, to go in and to pull up confidential information, which included the phone number of a one Shedeur Sanders who we were talking about earlier. And he thought it'd be a fine opportunity to have some sport with young Mr. Sanders and call him up.
Right.
First of all, not only was Shedeur Sanders' name was on there, but almost all the draft picks that were eligible to be drafted. This is private information. And this young man took it upon himself to go in there. We don't know who else's phone number he saw while he was searching for Shedeur's number. And now all of a sudden he thinks it's funny to make this call. So once again, the Falcons find a way. It's like 28-3 deja vu. They find a way. They have one. I mean, everybody's raving about the Falcons draft. Falcons fans are going wild. They're chomping at the bit. Can't wait for the season to start. And then suddenly, we get the cold water doused on us. And, there were some people calling for Jeff Ulbrich to be fired.
Yeah.
I mean, a lot of people said he'd be fired because he, like you said, confidential information was leaked. His son got into this. Like I said, we don't know how many other names and phone numbers he had access to. So let me just ask the question real quick as we wrap up. Are you satisfied with the amounts that were being fined? $250,000 for the Falcons and $150,000 for head coach Jeff Ulbrich, and probably a beatdown for his son.
Right. I'm definitely satisfied with the fines. Those are some hefty fines, by the way, Jonathan. I mean, he makes. I think Ulbrich makes $1.5 million. So $100,000 will be subtracted from that. The Falcons, $250,000. Now that's not a lot of money to the Falcons per se, but $250,000 is $250,000. So you're talking about a total of $350,000 levied on the Falcons, just because your son chose to do something that was unscrupulous. So yep. I try not to use that word, but yeah, I mean that's definitely what it was. When you as the person in charge and in possession of that iPad, then there's trainings for this, cybersecurity training. When people are taught how you secure things properly, so now his dad knows, Coach Ulbrich knows, hey man, keep your office door closed and locked at the house, or you're gonna have to put your iPad in a drawer and lock it, a cabinet and lock it. That's a part of cybersecurity in our homes, in our offices, and the whole nine. But at the end of the day, Jonathan, you're absolutely right. Hey, 21-year-old young man, better young man. And I hope your dad reprimanded you and had a nice sit-down talk with you, young man, about what you are supposed to do and what you're not supposed to do, which we all know that you know better, and you were trying to be funny, and it could have cost your dad his job, which would directly have impacted your life, young man. And so, hey, let's do better. You're going to hear me say this a lot, Jonathan, and you've heard me say this over the years. Let us all just do better, period.
And we really need the Falcons to do better, because this is why the rest of the country thinks, hey man, what are these guys doing? This is a typical Falcon faux pas. If we remember, the Falcons are at the Super Bowl, and we get a news report that the Falcons playbook went missing.
Yep, I remember that. Yep.
You see, these are the kind of things that make Falcons fans go, what is going on? And the rest of the media go, these guys are a bunch of goofballs. I mean, how can you lose your playbook at the Super Bowl? How can you as a coach just leave this iPad around and that your 21-year-old could access this? This is typical Falcons nonsense.
Not thinking, Jonathan. We have to take, our society has changed. The great Les Brown, watch this, because I learned this phrase a couple of years ago, and I think it holds true. So shout out to my brother Haziq Ali, and shout out to the great Les Brown, the number one of the most outstanding motivational speakers in the world. We used to be a people of substance. Now we have turned into a people of entertainment. So it seems to be that our priorities have shifted, where we think telling jokes and being funny and want to be unserious all the time is more important than paying attention to details and handling business as a priority. And that's what we saw in this case. It's as simple as that.
Yeah, there's no doubt about it. Yeah, I think that sums it up. Once again, Falcons fiasco. They find a way to, take the good news and turn it into some senseless news. But anyway, all that being said, Falcons do seem like I'm going to say the same thing I said last year when they drafted Penix, got Kirk Cousins. I'm going to say it again. If the Falcons get 85 to 90% of what we expect from these draft picks, the Falcons should be a serious contender to go deep into the playoffs.
Absolutely.
If they get 85 to 90% of what we expect from Michael Penix, from the current team, and from these new picks, the Falcons should be a team to go deep in the playoffs. Now, I'm not jumping on that bandwagon because last year I foolishly jumped on the wagon, pretty much guaranteed a playoff appearance, 10 wins, and I found myself once again doing what you're doing.
Jonathan,
everything fell apart.
Do you remember the show when we had the awesome Orlando D. Ledbetter on the show?
Yes, sir.
And y'all, several people questioned me that night. I said, "No, I don't believe in Kirk Cousins. Why would I believe in Kirk Cousins for? What did he do in Washington? What did he do in Minnesota to make you think he was going to come to Atlanta and lead us to some promised land?" And he was coming off an Achilles injury.
Right.
Come on, man. Hey, listen. Again, if the Falcons would have made the decision once he started playing bad, nobody knew what was going on. Obviously, they did. He was hurt. Get him out of the field and put in Penix. Period. Jonathan, if we win 2 more games, we went 8-9. If we win 2 more games, which we easily could have won, we're in the playoffs with that team from last year. So, listen, man, coaching matters.
And this is the problem.
And we have to make decisions every day in our lives. But when men get paid, men and women get paid millions of dollars to coach football every day.
Every day.
And it seems that some of these people have very difficult times. So maybe let's do this. Stop doing all the stuff that you're doing late at night and stuff like that, just go on to bed. You don't have to burn the midnight hour to coach football.
Because clearly it's not working.
Because it's not working. Exactly. Go to sleep so you can be clear-minded. You don't have to prove it. I don't know what you're doing right now anyway at 9 o'clock at night. Yeah. Go to sleep, enjoy time with your family. So when it comes game day, you can make some good decisions. That's all. It's just like, hey, I'm an educator, right? It's just like test prep. Hey, man, go to sleep. Get up in the morning, get a good breakfast, get hydrated, and get in there and take the test with a clear mind. But you stay up all night for what? If you've already prepared.
Evidently it didn't work.
Exactly. And if you've already prepared like you're supposed to during the week, during the times you're supposed to prepare, then you don't have to stay up and burn the midnight hour anyway. And you get out there and you make some good decisions. That's all I'm asking for the Falcons to do. Make some good decisions, and we done. And you mentioned the 28-3 fiasco. Once again, make good decisions. Run the ball 3 times, kick the field goal, we win the Super Bowl, and it's over with.
And we talk sports, who knows where we would have been had they done that.
Exactly.
Unbelievable. You know, hey guys, I can't believe it. Time is wrapped up. So you know how we do it. We want to make sure that you who are watching and listening, either live or replay, know more about our guest and co-host. So you know how we do it, Mr. Barry Brown. The floor is yours.
Well, once again, thank you, Mr. Jonathan Simmons, Minister Jonathan Simmons. As always, thank you for allowing me to be a guest on your show, Real Talk Sports. I am Barry Brown, author of the #1 book for youth sports, The Student Athlete Playbook. Here locally in Metro Atlanta, visit Madu Bookstore in Greenbrier Mall. Out in the South Lake Morrow area, shout out to those Morrow Mustangs. You can visit Nubian Books right there in the South Lake area, right there next to TJ Maxx. Listen, online, you can also go to Amazon.com, type in Student Athlete Playbook, and all the books will pop up. And we are here to support youth student athletes, youth student artists that are participating in extracurricular activities that want to make sure that their lives are better than it is now. See, young people, you have the power to design your own life. And if you choose properly, making the right decisions at the right time, and you're willing to put the work in, you can literally go from where you are now to wherever you want to go in the world. But you're going to have to plan for it. You're going to have to work for it. And then great things happen. I believe in God, so everything starts there. So have faith, put in the work, and you will be amazed at what you will accomplish. Thank you, Mr. Simmons.
Good words from Mr. Barry Brown. All right, guys, we appreciate you again for tuning in and watching us today. Again, your host, Minister Jonathan Simmons. I am, yes, a real live minister. So before I get off this show, I want to encourage you, if you do not know the Lord through a personal relationship with his son, Jesus Christ, I'm going to tell you, please, ma'am, please, sir, get to know him absolutely today. Why? He loves you. He died for your sins, and he rose from the dead. And because of that, 2 great things happen. If you repent of your sins and believe in him, number 1, you become a citizen of the kingdom of heaven. And number 2, you become an adopted child of God with all the rights therein. That means you now can go to God like a heavenly parent, ask him for anything that you need or desire, and according to his will, he'll give it to you. And when you die, you go to that happy, spectacular place called heaven, where there's none of the following: no more pain, you never die, you never get old, you never cry. And as a matter of fact, you now get to be with God and Jesus Christ and all the people of love and see him face to face. And you avoid that nasty place called hell, where all the things I just mentioned to you will not be there. Matter of fact, it's just the opposite. You're locked in with the devil, all his demonic hosts, and all the worst people ever to live upon the earth. I don't know about you, but option number 1 instead of option number 2. All right, guys, until next time we get back together again, we say God bless you. Have a wonderful day. And, of course, we cannot end the show without our condolences and prayers to one of our interns and former co-host, Mr. Miles Tyson, who made that decision many years ago. So right now he's enjoying splendor with the Lord himself. Yeah. And we're going to leave with the fight song from the Tennessee Volunteers, his favorite team. Until the next time we get back together again, God bless you and have a wonderful rest of the day or evening, whichever may apply. So long and take care.